Hello and welcome to another episode of Comic Fridays, where this week we're talking about how to plan your stories. If you're a gag-a-day comic writer, then you'll probably not really need to do an awful lot of story planning. Most of the time with your work it's just set up, punchline, and you go on to the next one. But sometimes you want to build together a load of jokes into a storyline, and that's kind of useful sometimes, so you can stick around and listen as well, don't worry. But there are two ways to deal with stories in comics. If you're writing just from the seat of your pants and you're just picking something that happens that issue and then you go on to the next episode and so forth, and it's all just, hopefully it comes together at the end, then that's perfectly fine. But you should really have an idea of where your story is going if you want it to have any semblance of coherence. Comics that are completely random don't tend to work all that well in the long term. Sure, they're quite fun at the time, and a lot of fans will go along and say, hey, it's random, it's interesting, you never know what's going to happen next. But over time they start to think, well, surely you've got an idea by now, and then it can drop off. So as long as you've got a good turnover of readers, that's fine, you're probably going to be fine. But if you're wanting to keep long term, you've really got to start thinking about what you're doing with your story, where it's going and what you want to say with it. So that's where story planning comes in. Now I'm not saying you have to have everything worked out in meticulous detail, saying, right, we're starting here and then it goes over to this and then this happens, but the reason that's happening is because of this over here, which we kind of hinted at the start, but it hasn't been built up in the same way in the foreground, but we've had hints in the background, so we've got to put things this and this, and it goes along like this, and that's our 10-year idea, and that's what we're going to be writing. You don't have to go to that kind of extent. What you should know at least though is where this particular story is going. So if you're doing episodes, then you can have an idea of this episode, we're going to start with this, build up to this, and then that's our move into this one. So it can either be a dovetail into a bigger story, or it could be a cliffhanger. That's, oh, what happens next, that kind of thing. As long as you know where you're going, that's fine. You can still seat your pants up then. Think, right, I need to get from here to here in a wacky way, let's do this. That works. Or you could sit down and do what a lot of us do, which is put out a story plan. So I need to get from here to here, but because of what I want to do later on in the story, I've also got to do this here. And then you work it out there and you put a basic script together and you produce your comic from it. Or if you're really intricate, you put together a script, and I've written about how to do scripts before, and I'll put a link in the description bar at the bottom so you can have an idea of how to do that. You could write your entire script. So in this panel, this person says this and does this. This panel is this and it does this. And you can have descriptions of how the panels are laid out, what everyone's doing and everything like that. That's perfectly fine. Whatever you want to do, do it, but have an idea of where you're going. And that's really all that you have to do with story planning. Planning really comes down to how much detail you want to know in advance about what you're doing. Some people can write out a series Bible, kind of. They'll have, right, this person is this, and they have these powers, and they have these skills, and they do this, and they're from here, which has all of these things going on in it, and they're really happy to be right next to here because it's nice, and they do this and this, but both of them are at war with here, and that's it. You can do that if you want. Your fans will adore it. The amount of backstory you can get from that, the amount of storylines that will come to you because of what you're doing with the series Bible is immense. You can practically write your entire storyline just by dealing with backstory and history. It'll bring everything to the forefront. Or you could have a basic idea, which is what a lot of us do, especially when you're starting out in TV series like this as well, to a certain extent. You have a basic idea that, right, in this world, magic does X, Y, and Z. And stick with that. And then in this world, we have a guy, and he has a magic sword, and he doesn't know where it's from, and he has to find out what the reason for this sword is before whoever has been chasing him finds it and takes it off him. Or perhaps he's decided, actually, I don't want this magic sword, I'm happy to give it to them, but a lot of people want to stop him doing that because they're going to cause trouble if they get it. That kind of thing. It all builds up from just your idea of magic works like this, and this guy's got a sword. There's two storylines, completely different storylines. Run with them if you want. The point is, you should have an idea of where you're going if you want any kind of coherence in the long term. Remember that forward planning doesn't have to be massive amounts, but it does have to be something. You need to know where you're going, basically. Okay, I want to move over to news now, and the biggest thing that's going around at the moment is the New York Comic Convention. Of course it is. Twitter has gone exploding about it, and not everything that's been exploding on Twitter has been good news. First and foremost, we have the issue of the New York Comic Convention organisers having used the Twitter accounts of people who registered their badges with and linked it to Twitter. They've been using those Twitter accounts to put out adverts for New York Comic Con, saying, "Oh, it's great, I'm having a wonderful time, I can't contain my excitement." Are you really? I don't know anymore, because you might not have sent that. Basically, it's been a big furore because they went overboard on their need to put out information. Sure, okay, you want to say that people are checking in because they've turned up at the convention, that's fine. You want to say that people are ecstatic to be there when, for all you know, they're a bored media person who's been sent to cover it because the person that was supposed to be going is ill. You don't know, but this is the problem. And it's caused a lot of anger with people because a lot of people didn't know that this was going to happen, and they've had their accounts hijacked effectively by a convention. They have paid to go to something that is then using them as free advertising. It's not right. But the worst part is New York Comic Convention have only semi-apologised. They said they were apologising for a perceived overstep. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear perceived, what it actually means is we're apologising because we think we have to, but we're not really apologising. And that's not good. That's no way to work. Staying with New York Comic Convention, we've had an announcement from Steve Lobdell that he's killing off Superboy. And I'm not sure why. The new 52 isn't that old yet, but they're killing off a character already, so clearly DC has kind of run out of ideas. I'm not really impressed by this, especially not when they're announcing it well in advance of the end of the storyline that this is going to happen in. So it's like, well done, you've blown your own plot. I just don't get why you do that. Are sales that bad that you've got to try and boost them up by spoiling your own storylines? I just don't get it. And the idea that Supergirl is apparently leaving the Superman fold for pastures new, it just, what? Guys, come on, you're kind of losing your grip here. I mean, sure, DC's lost its way quite a lot, especially over feminism issues and being a bit crap on women, but even this, the Superman family, surely that's one of your main things, and you're messing with it already. Things can't be good. So, let's see how it pans out, but for the moment I'm really not impressed. Okay, the final thing I want to talk about is another thing from New York Comic Convention. It's the announcement that Greg Rooker is teaming up with Dark Horse Comics again for another creative-owned title, this one called Veil. It looks very interesting. The artwork is amazing, as you can see from this image. Think, wow, that is really eye-catching. However, it has the women issue again, that this is a naked woman looking very vulnerable, and it's clearly meant to appeal to men. So along with the storyline, which starts off with a description saying, men attack her, and then they get hurt. Think, guys, we've seen this before, come on. Think of something new to do with women characters. Women don't have to be damsels in distress. They don't have to be this weird, meek thing that explodes whenever something bad happens. There are other things to do. So let's try and spread out a bit here. Having said that, I'll probably give it a look because the artwork alone looks interesting. But I'd like to see some new things coming out of people, because right now it appears that women are either dangerous or needing rescued, and that's not good enough. Okay, the final thing I want to move on to is the reviews. The first thing I want to talk about is 2000 AD issue 1854, which comes out this Wednesday. It's really good. The Dread storyline, I've been really enjoying this right up until this issue. There's a big problem that I have with the way that Michael Carroll, who is the current writer on Dread, solves his storylines. And it appears to be, right, we've got build up, build up, build up. Great characters, great dialogue, great action. Now we're going to build up right to a point where we're going to have a time skip so that you don't see the action and the resolution, and we're going to talk about it as an aftermath. I don't get why he does this. For the first few times that I was reading his stories, it really felt that what was going on was he had 3 episodes, or maybe 4 episodes, to finish a storyline that really needed like 5 to 9 episodes. And I was really happy when it looked like he was going to get more than 3 episodes to do the storyline. He got 5. He resolved it in 5. It needed 7. That's basically how it is. He jumps too far ahead, and it doesn't work for me. You can't build up and build up and build up and then not give the payoff. It feels like you're cheating the reader, and that's the issue that I've got with this. It's a fantastic story. It's been great fun up until this point. However, having said that, the artwork is fantastic. There's a lot of feeling of depth to it. There's a lot of good detail, but not too much. It doesn't feel crowded. The action sequences, you really get an idea of what's going on, which is fantastic, and it all just feels really good. So, excellent artwork. I was really enjoying the story, but the resolution is wrong. Another one that I'm surprised that I'm actually enjoying the story is Brass Sun with the writer Ian Edgington. Now, I really didn't like his Red Sea stuff, but his other work has been really good. I've enjoyed the way that he does action sequences. He does them really well. They're solid. You get a real feeling that he's devised his worlds properly and he knows what he's doing and what he wants to say with his stories. But unfortunately on this one, it's getting a little slow in pacing. I don't feel that there's any direction to the story, which is unfortunate, and some of the dialogue feels really quite stilted. I'm not sure what he's trying to do with this one. It really feels like he's lost his way. And I don't want to say that, but it does feel that. Having said that, there's a real sense that he's devised an entire world here and he knows exactly what's going on with this world. The world feels real. I'm just a little bit iffy on the storyline itself. But the artwork, my goodness, it's amazing. It feels like a Victorian comic book. It looks great. It's got a real sense of character to it. It's very good. So if the story can tighten itself up a little bit, this is going to be one to watch. Speaking of ones to watch, my goodness, Mills and McKay on Flesh. Oh my goodness, this is old school stuff. I feel like every time I see it, I just want to go, eee, it's great. It feels like the comics that I was reading when I was a kid. It runs at an incredible pace. There's a huge amount of action. It's a standard revenge tale this week. It's kind of Crime Keeper revenge tale. It's a bit different to what we've seen in the rest of the storyline, and I like the way that Mills is doing this. He's got a kind of Pulp Fiction style to it, where it's character piece, character piece, character piece, but they all build into one whole story. So I'm really enjoying it. It's good stuff. The artwork is amazing. Every single page is full of detail and action, and characters look great. It's just fantastic. Have a look at it yourself, and you won't be disappointed. You also won't be disappointed with Aquila, which is the Roman epic that's going on. It's fantastic. Gordon Rennie has really done his homework on this one, and I love it. The artwork is fantastic. It feels like you could just reach in and hold it. It's got a real sense of solidity to it. I love the story. I don't really get where it's going, but unlike some of the other ones where they kind of meandered, this one feels like there is something going on. There is a purpose. It's all building to something. It looks like it's building to something for next week. So I'm really, really looking forward to the next episode, because this one, it felt a little bit like a rest before the big battle. So I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. But it's a fantastic story. They've done the homework on it. It feels like it actually is ancient Rome. It's great. The final one we come to is Damnation Station. And I'll tell you now, there is no one doing better art than Harrison on Damnation Station. It's just that there's no comparison. This stuff looks amazing. The storyline is also fantastic. It's really fast paced. It's got a lot of good dialogue. The characters are fantastic. This is the best story in 2000 AD right now, and I'm loving it. I can't get enough of it. I want to see more. I'm looking for the collector's edition already. Go and have a look at this. It's worth the cover price alone. Okay, that's 2000 AD issue 1854. It's out on Wednesday, both in UK retailers and digitally. American readers can get it later in the month when it comes out there, but you can get it straight away if you want to go digitally, so I recommend that. And you can get it from 2000ADonline.com or from your local comic book retailer. The final one I want to talk about today is Scandinavia and the World. This comic is fantastic. I've been spending all week catching up on it on the archive binge. It's fantastic. There's a real sense of history to this. You look at the characters and yeah, sure, there's a lot of history because it's national history, but you learn a lot with it. It's actually quite educational when you read the descriptions below the jokes. I love it. The characters may be simply drawn, but that really adds to the class of the entire thing. The comic has a lot of swear words, so if you're not into that kind of thing, then you're probably not going to like this. And also, you're probably not going to like 2000 AD, so I'm not sure you're watching at the moment. It's light-hearted humour, it's great. I wouldn't say it's family fun, because drinking, swearing, taking pot and things like that. But if you're into just good fun, it's great, and I recommend you have a look at it. The art style has developed over the years, and there's a real sense that the artist really, really knows what they're doing here. And also, they've done their homework on characters' histories, the histories of the countries, the way they interact with each other. It is all perfect. You look at it and think, yeah, that is my country. We see England, it's tea obsessed, it's the father of some of the other countries. They all act like children toward England. It's funny as hell. And Scotland hates it, it's great. And then the Nordic countries are all attacking each other and sometimes being friends and then sometimes squabbling. It's great. Everything about this comic I love. I can't recommend it enough. And that's at satwcomic.com, so Scandinavia and the world. Recommend it. Go and have a look at it. You won't be disappointed. Okay, thank you very much for watching. That's all we've really got time for this week. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, remember to click the like button, share it with your friends so that they can see some comic news, hints and tips and reviews as well. And do subscribe for future videos because there will be more in the future. But until next time, I've been Kirk-Robinson. You've been watching Comic Fridays, and I'll see you next time.